Good evening and welcome to Como Arts on this gorgeous sunny evening. I'm the gallery manager, Janice Cotter, and before we start, I'd like to express my gratitude to the board of Port Moody Arts Centre and say how grateful we are for funding from the Government of Canada, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Port Moody, City of the Arts. Thank you for joining us. I hope you'll enjoy meeting Taize Powell this evening for his artist talk. And if you want to see the artwork or find out more about it, please come for an in-person visit to the gallery, or you can check it out online on the Taize's exhibition page and go through his digital gallery. You can post your questions in Facebook if you are watching along this evening in the comments. And you can also just make a comment to let Taize know you're here so that when he goes back and checks later, he'll know who attended. Anyhow, we'll get started right away. I would like you to meet Taize Powell and hear more about his exhibition, Melancholy.
Hi, welcome everybody to Melancholy. This is a really cool space. It's got these big windows and the light just pours in. So as we go through this little tour through Melancholy, each painting, look at it as if it's its own window. And in that window there's a story, and that story is melancholy in some way. From maybe the deeper, sadder side of melancholy to the restrained jubilation. So let's begin. This is the Lady of the Tower. So this painting, when you talk about esoteric literature, Renaissance age literature, Mary Magdalene was referred to as, the name Magdalene means of the tower. And so she's known esoterically as the Lady of the Tower. So this is my Lady of the Tower. And for me, spiritually, when you look at the Bible, there's so many figures that have a story behind them that's a bit mysterious. So this painting has a little bit of mystery to it. It's a little bit seductive, maybe. It's mysterious. She's standing behind the door, but she's definitely not hiding behind the door. This painting, I made a plaster, and I plastered all the doorway and the stonework on the ground, and then filled it in with my oil paints. It's done on a wood panel. It's large, almost life size. I wanted you to feel like you're about to walk through that door. So yeah, let's keep going. Let's move on. So this is a Troublesome Toddler. Now, obviously, this is a nude painting. When we talk about nude artwork, so often from the Eurocentric perspective, it's very acceptable and it's almost not even noticed. Whereas outside of the Eurocentric perspective, it's a little bit of a different story. So obviously, here we have this beautiful woman of color, and she's nude, but she's in the most pure moment that a mother can be in, and a moment that every mother could refer to, because she's dealing with a troublesome toddler. And you can see he is troublesome. He's giving her, but she's calmly just bathing her baby, and shrouding them are these blue herons. And the blue heron is when you watch them fly, they have such a cadence to them that's very calm and peaceful. And so I thought dropping those birds into this painting would really just set the stage for that peaceful moment within Melancholy. So let's keep going. This over here. Now we're getting into the sad, the deep pain that's within Melancholy. This is the Heriton Maiden and the Heriton Mother. So for me, and I should say this about all the work, I do work that I have a vision and I paint a painting, but I also want to leave room for the viewer whatever their experience is, to feel that through the painting as well. So when we look here, I look at this is the Heriton Mother. Now the Heriton Mother, to me, she has more of a stone face. Now these two women, they're Mauritanian women from West Africa, and the Mauritanian people in West Africa are modern day enslaved people. The Heriton is an ethnic group in Mauritania, one of the oldest, and so I wanted to capture some of these women, and so the mother, she's more stone-faced. She's almost like callous to what's gone on. She's been there before. She just knows what's happening. Whereas the maiden is a little bit more shocked, in my opinion. She's a little bit more grief-stricken with the shocking experience that she's going through. So this is definitely the pain that is within melancholy, but they're both sedated to keep within that emotion of melancholy. So let's keep going on here. And one thing I should say about these two. This one is probably one of the oldest ones out of all of them. So this I did about 2.5 years ago. And, you know, as I've grown as an artist, you can see it's much more clean and fine line, and, you know, that's great. But I also naturally, as an artist, am more inclined to texture and color and to be more free-flowing. And so you can see with this one, there's more of that because I've grown, you know, as an artist grows, you know, I'm kind of going back to the artist that I was as a child, more free-flowing and just letting it flow. So yeah, let's keep going. Let's move on to the next one. This is a spiritual moment between mother and child. So you have this mother, and they're inside what looks like a church or a cathedral, maybe in Ethiopia, in my imagination. And you have this mother breastfeeding in a church. Well, now, that sadly in our culture, that's something that could be considered faux pas or frowned upon to breastfeeding in a church. I know when I grew up in that environment, that was not going to happen. There was the mother's room for that. So I wanted to just smash that paradigm right in half and put her right in the middle of the cathedral with the light pouring onto her in the most spiritual thing that a mother can do, sustaining her child. So this is a spiritual moment. And again, this one has more texture to it, a little bit more. I sort of let it flow a little bit more with this one. This is also done on a wood panel, oil paint on wood panel, a lot of knife work. Yeah. So let's continue on. So this one is the feature painting of the show. This is Melancholy Chords, and this painting, you can see that she's holding her violin maybe in not such an orthodox fashion, and maybe she's got a bit of an attitude problem. Maybe she's being forced to play against her will. So this painting, I wanted to put the feeling of some sort of sedated frustration, maybe in a way, you know, that we all sort of feel in different times in our life. For me, there's times when I've been forced to do things I didn't want, and so that's the way I felt right there. And I see my daughter give me that look sometimes too. So there's that. This painting is probably one of the latest, so that's the freshest off the easel, or one of the freshest. And you know, for me, I love light. I think I really try to capture the emotions and the energy with light. So I try to really strike that contrast with the dark background and the almost over-exaggerated light, bringing her alive, you know. And I think it's a feeling that we've all kind of had at some point in our lives, so maybe it's relatable, I hope. Let's move on, let's keep on. So this is the biggest piece out of all of them, and this piece probably took me longer than any painting that I've ever worked on before. Like this one, I really just pontificated over it, and I got caught in this world. Now this painting is called Evening Serenade. We have this, she's probably the oldest lady, the most senior of the bunch, and she's got her brandy and her cigarette, and she's on her porch like she's done for the last 30 years, and no one's gonna tell her nothing. And down below, she's being just serenaded casually by these young men playing their music. Now, this painting, I wanted it to be familiar, but nondescript. So to me, it's a place in New Westminster that I used to stand and look down at the river. But maybe to you, it's a place in Gastown or in Cuba or wherever. And so again, I want the viewer to be able to put themselves in the picture. And you know, for me, growing up, music was a huge part of my life. Jazz, I spent a lot of time with my mother and my grandmother in jazz clubs and cafes, and and so jazz was a big thing. And I remember my grandmother and the feeling she used to get from just being serenaded by that music. So I wanted to put a bit of that vibration into this painting here. So, and it's huge. It's 60 by 65 by 5, and it's on a canvas, and it's all oil, a lot of knife work. I love exaggerating bricks. So you know, the bricks on this building are pretty funky. They're out there. You know what I mean? So yeah. And again with the light, lots of light. I love light. So moving on here, this would be the last one. So this is a floral moment, and this painting would be inspired from my upbringing. Growing up, my mother was a florist, and so I spent a lot of time helping her with floral arrangements. And there's something amazing about the relation that some of the women in my life, and women in general, have to flowers and the happiness. I think about when my daughter, when I give her flowers, and my wife, when I give her flowers, and my mother, how the look, you know, they get that, they take a smell and a smile, and then there's like, And so I wanted that, I wanted to capture that sound in the painting. So this is it. This is Melancholy, and it's the tour that, like I said, we went into the sad, we went into the mysterious, we went into the sedated, and then we ended here with this real joy. So, yeah. Thank you.
So Taize, I'm just going to talk off camera here.
Sure.
I don't have questions, but boy, oh boy, there's a lot of people talking to you here. I asked people to let you know that they were here. So there's a lot of wonderful comments you'll have to check out. But I have some questions.
Sure.
In references to the entire body of work, I've seen some of your other pieces because you've been in another exhibition here, but this one is mainly focusing on women. Is there a reason behind that?
I think that a lot of it comes from my upbringing. I was raised predominantly by my mother and my grandmother, and so I experienced a lot of my upbringing and life experiences with them around and with their perspective, their purview on things. And so, you know, there's a peaceful element to women. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's the way I feel. And I wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate women, because why not? And to really just pay my homage, to say thank you in a way through my artwork. Yeah.
You did a great job on that.
Thank you.
I'd also like to go back to what you were talking about earlier, when you were referring to your earlier work with the Heriton Maiden, and then referencing how it's changed so much in your current work in Heriton Mother. And you see those influences in a lot of these pieces that are newer. Can you address that? Because I see, when I look at Spiritual Moment, there's some of the fine brushwork, and then there's some of the looser brushwork that you were talking about. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So I think that there can be a tendency to want to please with others, to paint for people. And I think that as much as I want to paint for everybody, but at the same time, it has to come from within. And so when I was a kid, I really was funky with it, and loose, and lots of abstract, and And as I got older, I think I kind of wanted to play to the crowd a little bit, and so, but as I've gotten older, I've developed more confidence and decided that, you know what, it's important for me to really stay true to who I am, and I love to put a little bit of that detail, that real fine detail, but then contrast it with abstract, because I think we see in abstract to some degree, so, yeah.
That's great, thank you. Now, your color palettes, how are you selecting those? Although each piece is a slightly different color palette, they're all very intense in tones.
Right. I love red. Red is and so there's an element of red in most of the paintings, a touch of that, and I really love color. I think color, I love to use as much color as possible and contrast with color, and use a similar color palette throughout the painting, almost in like a sepia type of way, with almost a little bit of a filter on there. So yeah.
Okay. There's so many beautiful comments on here. Really,
wonderful.
Absolutely. They're lovely. Linda McKay Tippy says, I hope I said her name correctly.
Yeah.
She said, what's interesting to me is that she sees traces of Esther in almost every painting with a big heart. And several people have actually commented on that as well.
That's awesome.
It does. Do you find that obviously your beautiful wife must be an influence when you're painting?
Absolutely. I try not to explicitly, you know what I mean? Like, I want every painting to have its own individuality and be their own person. But in this series, there's definitely inspiration for sure. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't.
Yeah. So some of the other stories behind, and now you did delve in a bit to the story behind Evening Serenade and the story behind Floral Moment, which we hadn't discussed before. I didn't realize that was the background on that, so that was really interesting for me to learn. Can you tell us a bit more about, I didn't actually hear what you said about Melancholy Chords.
Right.
So can you tell us a bit more about the inspiration behind that one? I know music has been a big influence.
There's definitely, the musical element is strong in this painting, but there's also, there is, I guess, a slight racial element. Like, in a way, when people feel frustrated because they're dealing with certain things, this may be the expression, and not explicitly, but in some ways, when I was painting this, some of that frustration came through. I felt frustrated when I was painting this painting, and so I wanted to, and I think all of us are frustrated dealing with COVID. I mean, everybody's frustrated in one way or another, and I think that the best way to speak in life, sadly, we can't always say what we want to say, and so the way that I'm able to really speak my truth is through my artwork, through the muses, and it's one of the last safe havens for us to really speak the truth. And I think she speaks such a truth, because anybody who knows about the violin would say, what is going on there? She is not holding that violin properly. She's her posture is strong. Like, she has a strong presence, and it's undeniable. You can't deny her presence, but she's frustrated. Why is she frustrated? I don't know. And it could be, like I said, for many reasons. I remember watching, when you're forced to practice music for a musician. Now, I'm not I've done a little guitar, but when you're forced to practice, there's that frustration. I know when I watch my son, I have to make him practice basketball. There's that frustration, but it's still within that melancholy, and the light says that whatever she's done with that violin, it probably sounded good, regardless of how she feels. So.
Now, I remember that one of the paintings you referred to the subject as having a look similar to one your daughter gives you.
Yeah, that would be melancholy. Yeah, because she does. I mean, I definitely wanted to capture some of that. Like when she's not the happiest in the world, but she has such strong presence that it's beautiful. I hope to the viewers.
Now I'm noticing on Evening Serenade, this is your most recent piece.
I should say these are both like I sort of just yes. This is between the two of them. There, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I remember talking to you in the time coming up to the exhibition when you were still working on it, and you were experimenting with your palette knife and other techniques. Do you want to go a bit into that?
Yeah. I've done. I mean, scenically, when I work by day, I work in the film industry as a scenic artist, and so we do a lot of scenic plastering. And I love brick. I love painting bricks and doing brick textures and whatnot. And so I wanted to really sculpt. I wanted to, almost sculpt this painting out, and I did. It's heavy body. It's got, when you look at it live, and I hope that you can see that through the camera, it's got texture. You can almost feel the texture on the bricks, and especially on the bricks and on the road. And yeah, I've got, again, that sort of fits where I'm trying to grow as an artist and trying to really push the boundaries and really keep building on my own style. Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is it your background as a scenic artist that makes you attracted to such larger scale work?
You know what? I would say yes. I would say absolutely. I think sometimes artists can have a little bit of fear when it comes to going big. And in film, we go big. So I've gotten used to that and learned some techniques on how to do big work efficiently and not get caught and stuck on things, be able to do things in a few steps that really give a lot of feeling and expression in the work. Yeah.
You've captured quite a contemplative look on the lady watching the musicians.
Right. Yeah, she is, and she's very, she's wise. She's the one that you would talk to when you have a big decision to make. She's the grandmother. She's experienced everything. She's watched the street for years. She's enjoying the music, but she's also assessing the whole scene. She's almost like the monitor. I think we may all have one of those in our neighborhood, the monitor of the neighborhood that's always kind of keeping watch, and that would be her.
You have very vivid stories behind all of the people in your paintings. Does that come about before you start painting, or is it something that comes out through the process of painting them?
A lot of times what I'll do is put a figure in. So, for example, with this one, I did the face, which is detailed in sort of the centerpiece. With this one, I did her. That was the first thing I did. And then sort of relate to who that is. I get to know that person. And then once I get to know that person, they start sort of telling me their story, and I sort of base it out, which is different. A lot of artists would block everything in, and I don't necessarily do it that way. I like to build that character, and then that character, or sometimes I'll even just start throwing things at the canvas until it starts to sort of tell me a story. And I got a bit of a wild imagination that I always have, so that helps. Yeah.
I noticed that in most of the paintings, they have almost a halo or an aura around, a visible aura around each person. Is that
Right.
intentional? Was that part of the lighting?
Yeah, well, and again, like I said when we started, I wanted everybody to look at each painting like its own window. And I suppose that's how I paint. Maybe I look at a canvas like a window, and I love that light, and sometimes maybe it's a little exaggerated in places, but there's something. It's funny, when we do scenic work, we always say, stay away from halos. We don't want to, because what we call that is celebrating something when there's a halo around it. And I want to celebrate the feature. And so, I think that is a semi-intentional play. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kayla, did you have any other questions?
That's it for me.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered covered all of the questions, but really, I want you, when you get home this evening, to take a few moments and have a look at the lovely things people have said
Absolutely.
about you
For sure.
and your work. There's just some amazing, amazing things.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for taking time to watch, and I hope that it's moved you one way or another.
Okay, sorry, I just, something, okay, it might be just me. On my phone, the video stopped playing, so I was just having a minor heart attack out there. I'm just going to, I'll let you stay there, and if Caitlin wants to come around, I'll come back in the room. And I just would like to say thank you so much for coming and being here. We certainly appreciate the support of all our virtual events over the past year, and that you just keep coming. And we're so lucky to have artists that are interested in doing this and showing you their work and talking about their inner stories on these things. Next week, our artist will be Valerie Pugh, and her exhibition is Surveil, Who's Looking, Who's Watching. I hope you'll be able to join us next week for our artist talk. That's Thursday, April 29th. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you back in the gallery next week.